You have kind of 6 elements to this new system.
We do.
The first one, we can't touch on all of them today, but let's talk about 3 or 4 of them. The first one you call focus.
Yeah.
Seems obvious. Talk a bit about why that's so valuable.
Well, I think the reason we start with focus is probably obvious, but let's pull the lens back for a moment. If you ask a sales leader, now I'm talking about the senior-most person of sales, chief sales officer. If you ask that person, what is your focus for the year? The likely answer, 9 times out of 10, is they tell you their total target.
Right.
So let's say it's $100 million just for fun. They say, well, my focus is to hit $100 million. Now, one of the things that our colleague Chris McChesney taught us about is this idea of the whirlwind, right? Our day job. And see, in a sales organization, the whirlwind is such a wonderful thing because it produces, in most B2B sales organizations, the bulk of their revenue target. So it's not $100 million that they actually need to get. They need to get the difference between what the whirlwind produces and $100 million.
What's going to come in if we just do X, Y, and Z, run the play. That's
Now, it's a stretch to say it'll come in anyway. There's a lot of hard work that goes into making the business run every day and happen. So the first thing that we do is we help the organization to figure out what is the gap. So what's the difference between what the whirlwind will produce and what their target is? That's the easy part. The hard part is, how do you close the gap? And the reason that it's hard is because the gap can only be closed with what we refer to as lead measures or new behaviors. So what is it that salespeople, that the organization would need to do differently every day to produce that gap? And let's just, again, for this conversation, say the whirlwind produced 90 million, the gap's 10.
Okay.
So what are those behaviors we'll do every day, every week, every month, that we're confident that at the end of the year, that $10 million gap would be met? And by the way, what if we were off course? How would we know? And how would we correct that? So Chris has really helped us frame our thinking around how we think about focus for the sales organization. But that's really the first and most important element. And by the way, that goes from the frontline salesperson the whole way to the highest level leader in the company. Each one of those people need to understand, in the context of what they lead, whether they lead themselves or they lead a team, what their whirlwind can produce, what their gap is, and what behaviors need to be changed in order to fill that gap.